conclude it. And in any case, sometimes the ordinary people think that, think in terms of NDC and MPP, but the outsiders think of in terms of Ghana. So I think that it was to the credit of the government not to have, excuse me to say, misbehaved and say that, this is an NDC one, and to bring it to a successful conclusion. But that 1 year was not what I'm saying, that the medium-term plan, the coordinated plan, which unfortunately I don't think that most of you, the journalists, have read it, or was not the result of that. It is the constitutional requirement for that to be done when a new administration comes. And it's a 8-year program, which is a medium-term program. And I think that getting the government committed to that and to implement it, to me, is far more important than the type of things you do. What is in the manifesto, we are counting it, so that it says that, and those type of things, and not the petty things.
It's 27 minutes, so we hit the top of the hour. This is the Super Morning Show on Joy99.7 FM. It's a jaw-dropping conversation we are having with Prof Steve Adei. It's always that when we have Prof with us in studio, I must say. He's the chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, and we have walked through the country's development journey from the time of Guggersberg till now. And we've come to the sad but true conclusion that only 3 development plans, or should I say 4, have actually been implemented. 1 by Guggersberg, 1 by Nkrumah before Ghana became a republic, 1 by former President Rawlings under the IMF, and the last by former President Kufuor under the World Bank. Prof Adei argues that the current government is in the middle of implementing an economic plan and implementing it well. We are going to talk a bit about political buy-in. Implementing it and not well. So are they implementing it well? Can I ask? Are they implementing it well?
Let's come to that one as to where we are and how.
Or can you give me a short answer so that when we go and come back, we expand on it?
We call it a teaser. Let us wait.
Prof. Stephen Adei will give us his verdict of the current government's implementation of their medium-term strategy. But this was originally tabled to be a Vision 2020 conversation. So when we come back, we'll also talk about how the refusal of then opposition in 1995 to buy into this plan and the statements made by the opposition may have contributed to the abortion of that plan. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Charlie, you for level up. You too for win and drive better car thanks to your preferred bank, Societe Generale Ghana. Yes, so the 2019 SG Ghana Bank Deposit and Win promotion is here. And with a deposit as little as 200 Ghana cedis, you can win a brand new car and many more prizes. The earlier you deposit, the more you maintain and increase your cash, the bigger your chance of winning. There are 3 cars up for the taking: TVs, the latest smartphones, and many more. No, yawa, just deposit 200 cedis today. Won't pay way now, pay DA. SG Ghana Bank Papa B. Missy, don't miss out. Just step into any SG Ghana Bank branch, register, and start the ball rolling. Find out more about this fantastic promotion. Call 0302-214-314 right now. This promotion is brought to you in collaboration with the NLA on the Caritas platform. Hurry, the promotion runs from now until 31st December 2019. And remember, terms and conditions apply. Change your level.
A trusty friend on whom you can depend. Promotion. The Millennium Insurance freebie season is here again. Renew your existing motor insurance or buy insurance from Millennium and get various cool items. Rush now. Offer remains while stocks last. Terms and conditions apply. Millennium Insurance, your trustworthy partner.
Welcome to Shandonia Gardens, the new face of ideal housing and infrastructure facilities in Ghana. We're located adjacent the Accra-Tema Highway, just 15 kilometers from the Accra Mall, right behind the East Legon Hills. That's convenience. Our premium service plots are in a 100-acre gated community with well-engineered infrastructural facilities, occasional patrols, and 24/7 surveillance. That's security. We also offer you fully titled plots of various sizes with flexible
flexible payment plans. That's affordability and flexibility. Talk about a number of facilities like the tennis court, a mini golf course, a gym, parks and playgrounds, 24/7 water and electricity, as well as well-engineered drainage systems in tarred roads. Shandonia Gardens guarantees you a home that's fit for your lifestyle.
Call us on 0302 795 323
or visit www.shandoniaproperties.com. Shandonia Garden, where your dream lands.
You are special in your way.
It's me, like no other.
No one else can do it like you.
It's me,
I can play the drum.
I can sing, like no other.
I can dance.
Like no other. I'm talented. I can draw,
I can be myself.
with Indomie.
Here's to all amazing moms who identify and nurture the uniqueness in our kids.
Indomie instant noodles. Tastes great. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Working together. That's the key to better health care for you and your family. And now the doctors and specialists at Saudi German Hospital Cairo and Mayo Clinic are joining forces. They'll use Mayo Clinic's expertise to resolve the hard-to-solve medical problems. For you, that means peace of mind and access to the finest medical knowledge anywhere, right here at home. Saudi German Hospital Cairo and Mayo Clinic, working together, working for you. Saudi German Hospital Cairo, proud member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network. To find out more, visit sghcairo.com.
Contact Saudi German Hospital, Cairo, representative office in Ghana on 050-1900-500. You can also locate them at Laboni next to the South African Embassy.
Sometimes, musical perfection comes from collaboration. A collection of talented individuals can create something beautiful. And this is also true in life. Because when we work together, the result can be exceptional. That's why Fidelity Bank will always be by your side to help you achieve your goals. You and Fidelity, because together we are so much more.
Fidelity Bank. Believe with us.
Coffee in your cup and Joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
Entity in some way. Today's agenda, of course, is brought to you by Societe Generale SG Ghana. The future is you. Millennium Insurance, your partner, your trustworthy partner. Malcolm biggest Christmas sale ever is here again. Walk into any Malcolm supermarket and get a whopping discount up to 50% on thousands of items, which range from world-class branded electronics, furniture, home decor, houseware, and kitchenware. Malcolm, your one-stop shop supermarket, is there for you this festive season. Terms and conditions apply. Malcolm, where Ghana shops. Now, things are changing at Barclays Bank Ghana. As we get ready to change our name to ABSA, you start to see more of our new look whenever you visit a branch. That means a vibrant new red that is warm and powerful, passionate and proud. A red inspired by the color that is woven through our African land and skies. Try one of our new look ATMs and experience the next step in our journey to ABSA. Our color may be new, but our commitment to you, our cherished customer, remains the same. Barclays, part of the ABSA family. Barclays Bank Ghana is a registered commercial bank. The Barclays brand is used under license. (0244340 0244340 That's the WhatsApp number. A number of you are unhappy about Prof Stephen Adei's comments. I'll read a few of the messages. But let's get to talking. Shem from Pram Pram said, "Good day, Dan. Real talk. God's own Ghana will attain its rightful place when we consult the books of Nkrumah. Our politicians just patch over tattered clothing. We should visit Nkrumah's projects." Interesting one there. Okay. Let me just quickly come back to Prof. So, Prof, let's go back once again to January 2000, shall we?
January 2000.
Okay. When you were made head of that HR committee of the Vision 2020 plan.
Yeah.
And you then began to see firsthand that the plan was not being implemented.
Yeah.
Why was it not being implemented?
Well, first of all, I think that Ghanaians under the Fourth Republic have become so obsessed with manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And those manifestos, I think, have largely played to the gallery rather than, for example, one would have expected at least the second term of Rawlings, Republican Rawlings, Fourth Republic Rawlings, will have said that this is the long-term plan, Vision 2020. This is the first 4 years of implementation of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the session that we are going to, of course, if you have 25-year plan, there's only a limited thing you can do within 4 years. But if you compare, and I don't have the documents before me now, there's practically no reference to Vision 2020 targets in the 1996-2000 manifesto of either the government which prepared it and the opposition. So by itself, it means that it's not a reference point. Secondly, I think that the economy which led to the declaration of Ghana HIPIC was quite in challenge. And we say in Twi, Kwachi Adiefe, or the Scaneto, there was practically a serious, Ghana was highly indebted. As I always say that sometimes the World Bank people and IMF, they choose a name that makes you, if you don't take care, it will almost make you a fossil. Highly indebted, poor country. So the country was highly indebted and poor, and therefore there was not much money.
Yeah.
But for me, and this has been a concern, even if you do not have money, if you have a commitment and you are doing strategic thinking, you find a way of doing much with what you have.
Okay.
And let me say something which I'm not too proud of it, but I think it's sad that it's still relevant. When I was an advisor to the Council of State in 1981 under Liman, I was seconded from Investment Promotion Center, where I was the deputy in charge of research, to prepare guidelines for Ghana's development. And one of the statements in my report was that we seems to be a country without a brain. And then, of course, the average age of those people were about 65. They asked me, "Young man, what do you mean by a country without a brain?" And I said, I'm not talking about individual Ghanaian Maradonas and brilliant people, but that it having a hub of people who are thinking the scenarios of the country where there's a challenge, what are the alternatives and other things. That is what a body like National Development Planning Commission should be doing. So we don't have that type of commitment capacity, and if we even want to have it, the politicians are not committed to it. And I mean, the National Commission, National Development Planning Commission, is a shadow of what the Constitution expects it to do. So these things, the lack of money, the lack of intellectual investment in our development, commitment of politicians, all of them have been the bane. And that is where always you were talking about, it's not me who said the foreign investment involvement, but it was a very wise observation by you. During those times, there is sometimes a flow of money from the international community to support it. The governments are forced to be committed to their program, and there's implementation. And even when we do not have organized, sad to say, internal intellectual capacity, we have those foreigners joining with us and directing what must be done.
Right.
So the elements that go into planning, implementing it, seems to be, not even though not fully because it's being driven sometimes by outsiders, are there. And then you see a result. Those were absent when the Vision 2020 was done.
There was no head teacher with a cane standing behind us.
Or a father, a national leader with a committed to it as my agenda.
We have had IMF programs outside of these development plans that we have implemented. Would you say these IMF programs have been successful?
Yes and no. The IMF programs always come in when your economy is in such a bad shape. So it's almost a rescue mission.
Okay.
And rescue missions are not the one that take you to your haven. For example, the recent one, I mean, the economy was such in bad shape, but it has led to some stabilization. It's what you make out of it rather than going back into the crisis. And then, so those IMF programs will never develop Ghana, but they become a necessary one when you have misbehaved and your economy is running overheated, inflation is 18%, you have no...
Or 40% in
99, or you have no foreign exchange for imports. So those always IMF programs are crisis programs. They are not development agenda. So if it helps you to stabilize and to cool, you must then have your own agenda that will build upon it, or else you could come back. In fact, that is a sign of our mismanagement.
So there are comments here that some suggest that Vision 2020 was being implemented between 1996 and 2000, and it was the HIPIC decision that made them abandon it. This is actually a listener's comment.
No. It's people, Ghanaians talk out of motions or our political alliances and that things, but not out of facts. Why was the HIPIC? What does the HIPIC mean? It meant that at a certain point we were highly indebted, poor, needing a relief. So I wish the guy, whoever, could say this is what was implemented. What I'm saying that when I was brought in, I came in end of 1999, started 2000, January 2000. We were to review the 4 years of the Agenda 2020. I was taken off the review committee because I insisted that we should be honest and appraise what has been done and how we can calibrate it. It was still under NDC government. And I got, within 2 months, I got a letter from then NDPC. Interestingly, now I come to think about it, it's the NDPC I'm leading. They write me a letter that I've been relieved of my position as the chairman of the social sector. Which, of course,
one of the targets set was the decentralization of governance in making the district level governance more effective, so that not all the power lies in the center. Of course, that was not implemented fully. That was not achieved fully.
Actually,
but to an extent, that it was done, wasn't it?
No. Again, people don't look at the facts. That decentralization agenda was actually part of the economic recovery program. So by 1995, the decentralization structure had been put in place. What was needed, and the 2020 should have implemented, and still we know that it's not happening, is really giving them the powers to really have effective decentralization. Actually, that's what made my friend Atuahoe popular during his time as the minister. that was under the PNDC, that decentralization, the actual decentralization was done between 1983 and 1992. What was to be done under 2020 is really physical, or giving them autonomy and allowing them to become effective. If you come from the village, or you must be a crowd boy, you go and see whether there is effective decentralization.
Live on the Super Morning Show in Joy 99.7 FM. We are going through the Vision 2020 document, really, to look at exactly some of these things that we said we would do and why we did not do them. So, Prof. Adei, of course, who is a head of the National Development, the chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, has been telling us a bit of the reasons why. Now, you mentioned that it was a commitment of leadership, mainly, that led to that extent.
Commitment of leadership, lack of resources, and so there were several factors.
Yeah, at what cost did that come? You insisted earlier that this was the real periods where we had real development, when we were implementing plans,
systematic programs. Sometimes it wasn't so. For example, the economic recovery program was not a plan, but a consistent development agenda. So and there it's so clear when you look at our statistics.
So tell us a bit more about the real cost to the Ghanaian, the average listener, you and I,
for not
following the plans like Vision 2020.
It's fair what we are all talking about today. For example, if we had had a systematic agenda of building the roads, let me give you a practical one, we wouldn't be where we are today. But when you start what they do, dualization of the Accra Kumasi road. And I remember just before His Excellency Atta Mills died, was even there raising his hands as to what is that. To date, you go, we haven't been able to finish it to Apegua. Whilst if we had done even 10 kilometers of good road, like the motorway, that's following an agenda, a plan. From Neoplan to Kumasi is 250 kilometers. In 25 years, we will have had a first-class dualized road. That is the cost of not having a clear agenda and a commitment being followed one after the other. Take a case of our railways. Ghana, in the end, if we don't make good railway and connect to the north, no matter what we do, because we live in a tropical country whereby roads maintenance is very, very costly. You require a plan to do so. We have been blessed as a nation, and that's what I like about the current commitments being made, that we have been blessed by bauxite. We have one of the biggest bauxite deposits in the world. And we have found out that we have also one of the biggest deposits of iron ore in this country. You aren't going to have 2 years, do integrated bauxite, integrated iron and steel. You need an agenda of about 10 years in order to really exploit it so that Ghanaians can benefit from it. God has blessed us with caustic soda, that's salt, to make it easier. Sorry for do you know caustic soda, and has blessed us also with oil. Together, we have the basis of petrochemical industry. Everything about petrochemical we import today. The cost of not having a systematic agenda to really develop Ghana and a commitment to it is the cause of the fact that we are so-called middle-income country with fourth world characteristics, from sewerage to education and everything else. It is something that as a people we must rethink, looking at our history to inform our future.
3 minutes to the top of the hour. This is the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Prof. Stephen Adei is our guest here. What we are going to do now after this quick batch of messages is look forward. look forward to the next 10 years, and I love how Prof himself puts that cap on it, that if we want to, for instance, develop bauxite, let's look at 10 years. If we want to develop this.
Yes, to the future, I would, because I'm going to talk about, well, yes, we have 10, and when I want us also to have, and NDPC is talking about Ghana at 100.
Ghana at 100, which is a 38-year plan. Okay.
Of which, of course, you break it into, now you are 10-year, medium term, and other things. So we'll talk about that.
But you see, there are members of this government who have been ideologically opposed to long-term plans for a while. So we'd also need to tackle that, the attitude and the commitment of leaders, because
people are talking about Ghana beyond aid, it can only be long-term. So therefore, some people, they can be ideologically opposed, but it's inconsistent. The president is talking about vision Ghana beyond aid. Can you get Ghana beyond aid in 3 years?
We'll answer that question when we come back.
For life, generally insurance, healthcare, and finances. Look up to Geico for solutions. Look up to Geico for solutions. Geico, we cushion you for life. Geico, we cushion you for life. Geico, 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 we cushion you for life.
Contact Geico on 030-221-8500 or 020-2222-113.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation over the past 45 years. We've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products, and technology. These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
Charlie, so it's actually raining and we can't hear any sound. As for this, your house, when it's raining, no sound. When the sun is up, the interior is cool. What roof are you using?
They use Ico roofing shingles from Interface Limited. Long lasting and beautiful.
Ico roofing shingles. We all for move to Interface and get this Ico roofing shingles.
Interface Limited is the leading supplier and installer of finishing input materials for the building and construction industry in Ghana. Call us on 0274-999999 or visit our website at www.interfacelimited.com.
National Road Safety Authority. Ebom koko say, why motor ready? You sure say a baby rabbit motor so push your helmet. You are too achi, a helmet. Na you sure say ube jam baby zebra crossing will be a baby traffic was so jam. And for open cam me acrobato. My road safety campaign may catch you say yenara yenge apeye. Won't go here, min go here. Be awareness out to I'll be awareness so that we will go home safely. Stop road accident now. I repeat, stop road accident now because atama shit. Road safety and you are said here, it's your duty, it's my duty. Thank you.
Sweetie, I for pay for my ACCA and senior membership. And my school fees too. Erade,
could you the drama king look sharp with ADB Visa prepaid card?
Sweetie, I believe you know my school is in abroad, right?
Babe, Kosovo cry. Look sharp with ADB Visa prepaid card.
Why say everything for look sharp? ADB Visa prepaid card.
Sure, ADB Visa prepaid be the correct answer to online payment, school fees, truck money, fuel purchases, per diems, and many things. Charlie, for open account, just walk into any ADB branch plus your valid ID and get one just like that. You go free travel anywhere in the world with them and get your money over 24 million visa locations worldwide.
I go look sharp and get my instant ADB Visa prepaid. Get your ADB Visa prepaid card instantly at your nearest ADB branch and look sharp. Call 0302 210 210 for more information. ADB, truly a great and more.
Multimedia Group Limited, in partnership with SES, KNET, and WillowAfric.com's e-learning project Willow TV, presents Joy Learning, a channel dedicated to providing educational content for all levels. Special focus on senior high school educational content because we believe in nourishing the minds of the future generation. Joy Learning is providing equal access to education, no matter whom you are and where you are in Ghana. Joy Learning collaborates with SES, KNET, and Willow TV to deliver a new learning experience. Study with Ghana's top teachers and lecturers on the Joy Learning channel, scheduled to take off Monday, 30th December 2019. So individuals, senior high schools, community centers, and libraries, get your multi-TV digibox now. Joy Learning. Keep learning.
Coffee in your cup and joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
With Professor Stephen Adei. He's chairman of the National Development Planning Commission. We're talking about Ghana, planning and development. Abdul sent in a message. What's your view about the senior minister's comment in 2017 that no country plans for 40 years? This is his comments based on the previous government's 40-year development plan, as against his comment that the current government is planning a Ghana at 100 plan, which is 38 years from now. Abdul, it's as if you stole it from my mind. Please find out from Prof Adei what three sectors of our economy would he say have been successfully managed from 1992. Yao from Accra. Keep your questions coming. 0244340437. That's the WhatsApp number. You can also tweet at us at Joy997FM. Go on our Facebook page, Joy 99.7 FM. But let me remind you that if you're thinking of getting a new phone, we have the best deal for you at MTN. From today, you can just walk into any MTN office or service center to pick up a classy new phone from a range of selected Samsung devices and pay as low as 36 Ghana cedis every month for 6 to 12 months. Now you can pick up your favorite device and pay later thanks to MTN in partnership with EcoBank and Samsung. Remember, terms and conditions apply. MTN, we're there for you everywhere you go. Now, with over 30 years in the stationery business, Kingdom Books and Stationery now offers a 30-day credit facility with no interest charge. We deliver free within Accra, Tema, and surrounding towns. So call us on 0302 764 101 or 762 307 or visit kingdomgh.com. Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited, your number one stop shop for all office essentials, stationery and furniture. Let me begin with the listeners' questions before we go to the other parts. Well, of course, some of the listeners' questions tackle the questions that we had planned to answer. So let's begin with the senior minister's comments in 2017. You are planning a 38-year plan. The senior minister said, we have planned a 38-year plan. The senior minister said when he was being vetted in 2017 that Ghana has no need for a 40-year plan. So how do you implement your 38-year plan?
First of all, I'm not here to defend. any senior ministers or ministers' views. I'm not a politician. I'm the chairman of the National Development Planning Commission. I think that there are people who may be ideologically opposed to planning. There are some who are ideologically supportive of it. But the reality is this: no country can develop with 4-year manifestos which is not reflective and linked to a long-term perspective plan or strategy. That is, you may. Number two, what I think was good and weak about the 40-year plan is that I think it's good that they were thinking ahead. Ghana, basically, the same as we now talking about Ghana at 100, because that's 2 years before. They were thinking in 40 years it will coincide with Ghana at 100. However, if you are thinking about 40 years or longer, 50 years, as Banyu actually was the first person to think about Ghana 50 years ahead in his 19th, because Ghana 2057 budget. He produced, in fact, I have one on my desk right now. So he was thinking about 50 years ahead, not even 40 years. But when you are talking about perspective plan, you cannot go into the details which the 40-year plan almost telling you what to do in detail, because in 40 years so many things go on. So perspective plans give you an outline. For example, what we are about to complete, which we have drawn a lot from their 40-year plan, is altogether about 40 pages, of which some of them are, of course, diagrams and that thing. So really, it's about half of it, which is them. Whilst the 40-year plan was 465 pages. I mean, first of all, I don't think that no government officials are going to read it. If you, neither the technical, even the technical people will not read it. It will have ended on the shelf. Why? Because of the bulk and the nature of it. The perspective plans. So what we are doing now is extracting the Ghana we want at 100, and the main levers, agenda that will take us there. Then always it is, you must have a rolling plan.
Okay.
That's where you go in detail, say the next 10 years or 8 years. This is what can be done. For example, development, despite you can talk about leapfrogging in ICT and that things, but the whole development cannot be leapfrogged. If you don't have roads and railways, you will not be able to move your things. So certain things, the quality of our education, for example, unless Ghana improves the quality of our education, which starts from basic school quality, the first 9 years, we are kidding ourselves. We are now on the world ranking about 3rd or 2nd from the bottom. Ghana, Adeshimama. Now you go to rank our education, and we are one of the worst. In fact, there were 73 countries which were assessed, so therefore no whole world. Only Niger was below us in terms of quality of our basic education.
Which ranking are you referring to?
There has been a ranking about the World Bank recently. And even if you go and look at the World Development Report of 2018, do you know what it says about Ghana? It says that we are having schooling without learning. In other words, we are actually babysitting our people in the public schools in Ghana.
Education is actually one of the areas that I wanted us to come to, Prof, given your experience. Because we know that in the Vision 2020 plan, the big idea was to make a Malaysia out of Ghana. When OECD did the education ranking in 2015, Malaysia was one of the top countries, and Ghana was bottom.
And we are now bottom. We've gone down, more down.
It's disheartening.
It's disheartening.
So what would
because
it take?
We have not put in a systematic agenda. You know, the Chinese say that 1,000 miles start with one step. At this moment, if you go, we have really deteriorated, and more at the basic level. It will surprise you. I have my wife and I, founded this non-for-profit Ghana Christian International High School, and 7 years ago we started a branch in my village, famous Shirowasi, which always my villagers would like to hear about my representing them. And I had 80 people who have finished BECE or BECE. And the average person cannot even write a sentence.
But they finished the BECE.
And yet, they get their money and go and bribe supervisors and other things and the police and other things, and they cheat and then give them. Just last year, people were coming to fill forms because I'm giving chance to the villagers. Someone comes from Adei says, fill your village name. Or see, Adei they mean to mean super. I cannot spell Adei. In 3 years, Adei they mean to mean super. Who is in the 9th grade? So what the World Bank and other things are saying is not a matter of rubbishness. So, but all this requires very important strategic framework to deal with it. You have to deal with the teachers, their supervision, and the rest. But let us not digress. We can come back to education.
It's a big part of the plan, really, because education is the bedrock of what we are talking about. And an uneducated nation, I shudder to think what would become of it.
I'm not dismissing it, but the fact that we were saying that, so you need, is that you need a long-term strategic framework, which you call a long-term plan, which is not going to be detailed 500-page document, and then you must have a medium-term agenda like what we have here, which was not fitted into that, but of its own, the coordinated program for economic programs 2017 to 2024.
So if this coordinated program,
you need that one, but this is a standalone because what I'm saying, in the absence of a long-term framework, we do the short term, the medium term, without reference to the longer term.
So what is the guarantee that we would implement the 38-year plan? If we are already on an 8-year plan, which stands alone from that one.
The good news is that, it's when I went to teachers college, a 4-year teachers college after SAR 7. I would say that you always start from the known to the unknown. The good news about this coordinated plan, that there are elements of it which, if they are implemented, they fit into the long-term one. The infrastructure, the railways, the roads, energy. We've just completed Ghana Infrastructure Plan 2018. So it's a matter of calibrating it. Of course, there are many 1,001 things, but what we are doing is to encourage the government to focus on the strategic agenda, the transformation of agriculture. As we said, really improving the quality of education, railways, affordable energy. At this moment, our electricity price is such that we will be uncompetitive on the world market. So we have to change the mix of our electricity so that the unit cost comes down drastically. And also cultural attitudes. At this moment, much of our things, are buying Juma type of mentality.
Okay.
And so there are about 8 areas which we think what we are trying to do is to work with the governments, because the NDPC is not for one government, to tease out what is most strategic. And when we have finished it, in fact, we are ready now to go and discuss it with the president and also the parliament. Then that will inform, because Ghanaians are hooked on manifestos, but they must get something to interrogate manifestos, because not that this is what we are going to do. Somebody must ask what we are going to do. To what extent does it go to facilitate Ghana's longer-term development.
But in the spirit of long-term development, why did we not simply continue with the 40-year plan that was implemented by the previous NDPC?
Actually, let me correct you. The 40-year plan was not implemented by NDC. It wasn't completed. In fact, the first full draft was submitted by my predecessor, Kusibotri, to President Akufo-Addo. So it was in preparation. So it was, unfortunately, they presented it, and they also resigned, say that they want to give the government opportunity to appoint a new. So NDC did not implement, but under NDC, that NDPC.
Actually, I said NDPC, the previous NDPC.
Yes.
That's the statement I
yes,
made.
NDPC,
but go ahead.
They prepared it, not implemented. Actually, NDPC, if you want to be that way,
it does not implement the plans.
So your plan must be such that you should be able to convince the government to adopt it, or the governments.
So why didn't you convince this government to adopt the 40-year plan presented by Prof. Boche?
Because I just said it, that the 40-year plan, that's the first thing in fact, when I took over, I met with Kusibotri on 3 occasions to brief me on it. You cannot, I don't think that the 40-year plan as it was, with 465 pages, is implementable. So what we have done is reducing it to what we call perspective plan. That gives you the broad guidelines for the future. And then out of that, developing medium-term detailed plans. Because as it is, let me tell you that when I look at it, there's a lot of effort has been put in it, but this document will not be read by any president. It will not be read by any minister.
So this is a condensed form?
Yes, we are condensed, but also tuned to reflect what we think. For example, the first is the picture of Ghana we want at 100. And then what are the major levels? So we have used, so we didn't go out, for example, to go and meet the press, meet the people and that things. They had done the background work. And we are using that one. And we have actually completed the Ghana at 100, which hopefully it will be launched, and there will be a bipartisan, hopefully, buy-in, because we are going to present it to Parliament. But we are a department under the presidency by constitution. We were going to do it in December, but the president had traveled the day we were scheduled. So we hope Parliament would see it as a national document and not as an NPP or NDC document. And hopefully it will inform their manifestos. We hope to do it in this January.
But since development plans are not binding on governments, there is really no guarantee that they will be admitted or adopted, no?
I believe that at this moment, there's no constitutional or legal binding on it. But if you are able to produce something, that's why I was concerned about the nature of it, and there is a general media Ghanaian also buying, they will use it to interrogate every government's agenda. And indirectly, you will hopefully to influence the manifesto. So that's why we want to really get it out this month.
The framers of the 40-year plan say that it was born out of the Senchi consensus, which you were a big part of. Did you find that it carried the spirit of Senchi, and in so doing, why not simply just use it as it is?
First of all, I haven't seen anything, that statement you are making, because Senchi, which I was part of it, was not looking at a long term. It was how to resolve
the challenges
that we faced immediately, which of course led to the IMF program. So Senchi was not a long-term plan. Again, you journalists always have something in your mind and you want to get, we are too old to be tricked into it. What I'm saying is this: a 465 detailed 40-year plan is not something you are going to get any Ghanaian politician who thinks a maximum of 4 years, at most 8 years, to work with. What we are saying is let's extract the essence of it as a framework, which then will be used to drive short and medium term agenda. So to me, it's this. What we are doing is complementary to what they have done.
Marcus B. Anthony says, our challenge with developing Ghana is thanks to the greed of politicians and their sponsors. Until we decide to abolish politics and decide to work together in the same direction, we will forever remain broke, while the political actors will never see poverty in their lives and that of generations after them. Right.
Well, it's not possible to abolish politics. That's the first thing. I think that let us be very careful. Ghanaians are so negative. Since during the Fourth Republic, we haven't achieved our best, but we have seen a progressive improvement. And now, Ghanaians are talking, the ordinary Ghanaian, and I hope the journalists will pick it totally, are talking about issues. They are talking about roads. They are talking about education and things we are moving forward slowly, and we want to accelerate the movement. But I think that we have become too pessimistic, and and that is not good for our country. Because at this moment, for example, there has been such a tremendous improvement in agriculture. There are other areas we can say, we need them. But people think as if, nothing has happened.
There has been output in agriculture, yes, but you would also admit that the hue and cry from the farmers is that they have not benefited because the produce was not planned for.
That is, this is where the challenge is. When you are developing, there will be imbalances and you restore. For example, I believe that the silos, what they call it, to store the places.
Yes.
If I'm correct, about 87 have been completed. What I'm saying is that when you plant a corn, within 3 months, it is harvested. If you are building a storage, it doesn't take 3 months. So yes, but these things will correct themselves over time. And I think that, I mentioned outside when we were out there that, for example, when you go to the village, plantains now, a whole bunch is 5 Ghana cedis, even though when they bring it to Accra, they charge us so much.
Because of the roads they travel.
Okay.
But a quick fact check on that. When we had Abdul Wahab Annan, who is the head of the National Buffer Stock Company, with us in studio, he admitted that the new silos that were constructed were about 18, and that the number of silos didn't make up the 85 are actually silos that were in use already. So they were not free to take the new produce that came. He was sitting in the chair.
But what I'm saying, they were not free to.
No, so they were being used for another program. So I asked him specifically if those silos are empty to take the new produce, and he said that they are not as of now. They are not free as of now to take the new produce.
But the point I'm trying to make is still valid. What I'm saying is this: when you do the produce, when you are developing, you have bottlenecks. One comes and you realize this bottleneck, you solve it, and you go along.
Yeah.
And if this 18, I'm not in that field. But the point I'm trying to make is that we should be very, very careful as, for example, the free senior secondary school.
Yeah.
It has got a lot of challenges. But those challenges must be resolved. The issue is not saying that, don't have free senior secondary school. Then I say that let your children stay home so that my villagers will go now, and then next year your children can go. So that is how we develop. You make a move, issues arise, and then you solve the issues.
I have a texter here. He says, ask Prof, how do you condense and implement what he categorically states is not implementable? Prof please talk about...
Yes, let me explain why.
Yeah, I'll come to that. Let me add Philip from Kokrobite's in just a moment, Prof. Let me just add Philip from Kokrobite's question. He says, good morning, Didi. Can the plan Prof is talking about go through the process in Parliament to become an act therefore making it binding on the parties. Prof would speak to that. Abdul sends another one. Ghana is very good when it comes to development planning, but very weak when it comes to the implementation of the plan. I'd like to know from you whether the mandate of the NDPC includes the implementation of their plan. If not, who is responsible for the implementation? Abdul, I'm pretty sure you sent this a few minutes ago. I'm pretty sure you've heard the answer to that question, but I'll still ask Prof to restate that for us. So the first question about implementing condensing something which you called unimplementable.
I think that he's gotten me out of context. In other words, the 40-year plan as the draft plan, because it hasn't been adopted by any government. It has not been adopted by NDC or NPP. It was a plan there. But we reviewing it found out that there is too much details which over time, of course, other things change. There's drought, there's other things.
Yeah.
But in it, there are critical elements. For example, there's a need to do our railroads. We must get our roads fixed. We must, strategic industries must be on it. The quality of education. These ones are very, very important. And what we are saying is this. If we go to the Ghana at 100, which is, we say that these must be our targets.
Yeah.
And then you must have a shorter term implementation agenda as to what you are going to do within the next 5 to 10 years, which will be informed by that. So it's not a matter of throwing away the baby with the bath water. As to the plans, at this moment, as to Parliament approving it, basically it is left to, again, a government saying that this is what we want and then taking it to Parliament. It's not the responsibility of NDPC. If NDPC acts rightly, it is a think tank which brings out outputs, disseminate it. Hopefully, Ghanaians get educated, politicians get a buy-in, and it informs the agenda.
But it would be a good proposal, no?
Oh, no. Actually, that was proposed when there was the constitutional review to make the NDPC such that its outputs are binding. But that requires constitutional change. And unfortunately, Atamels, who set up the Constitutional Review Committee, did not, in this white paper, say that they will not accept that. So that is beyond the NDPC. But I cannot do that. Okay. About the weak implementation, that's, of course, I mean, I've already said that whenever, even we didn't have a 40-year plan, we had a medium plan like the poverty reduction program, the ERP, the Chrome's first 10 years. Whenever there has been a commitment to implementation, we have seen major advances. And we are seeing it even now in this food, what they call planting for food and jobs. I mean, the government is passionate about it, and we are seeing results. Their challenges are there. Whenever there is a consistent commitment to a program, we see. So implementation has been the bane of Ghana's development.
It's exactly 9:30 here on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. Prof Steve Adei is still with us. Acts of Parliament are binding, and that even if this was made an act of Parliament, for the national.
No acts of parliament are binding.
Yes, the next parliament can amend it.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Right time. Come on, y'all. Do the right.
Just an input there from a listener.
Okay. So if there's a constitutional change, then it is binding.
Then that could be.
That's
binding.
what Atamils wanted to do, but later on they all chicken out.
Yeah. Text messages on the Super Morning Show are brought to you by Glyco Travel Insurance Policy. Glyco, we cushion you for life. And Afrodan, your back must last you a lifetime. So what we've done in the past hour and a half is that we've dealt with development planning in Ghana from pre-independence till now and 38 years into the future. Looking at exactly what kind of country we want to look at and what it will take for us to get there. I think the key of what Prof Stephen Adei has told us is that it will take political will. It is lack of political will which brought us where we are now, and it is political will which will help us implement a national development plan, which is the only thing that has guaranteed development in the over 100 years since this group of people occupied this piece of land. I'm saying over 100 years because we have gone all the way back to Gaggisberg. So we are not even talking about 62 anymore. But before we Prof leaves us, because Prof has been kind enough to spend his entire morning with us, we are so grateful. Before you leave, you are board chair of the GRA, the Ghana Revenue Authority, and there was a fire which, all of us had to leave church and drive down to Kokomlele to come and see what's going on. And we want to know, is the report on that fire ready?
So far as I know, we haven't, as a board, received the report. So we are still waiting for it. It was an unfortunate incident, but I can say to the Ghanaian public that we did not lose any money. I don't know who decided mischievously to say that there's a CEO. There's no CEO in GRA called Frimpong Adei. There's nobody called that, and has said that we have lost 147 million cedis. We did not lose any money because it's a large tax office. We don't collect money, cash there. Everybody has to pay the large tax officers by check or direct transmission. And I must commend the security agents. The military and the police were there, and the first thing they did, even our safe was immediately dug out and sent to Nima police station. So when the fire was going, there was not even a safe there. We lost, of course, the first and second floor were gutted. We have reorganized. We are now in the former headquarters of Stanchart and that of their branch near the circle. So we are fully restarted. It will interest you to note that in December, we more than met our target in revenue collection. And so we hope that good things are going to happen.
How much did we collect?
Actually, I'm having a board meeting because every day they have to calibrate. The last time was about 5.6 billion.
For December?
Yes. In fact, while we were looking for about 5 billion. So, thank God.
I remember that target for 5 billion because I did an interview of the GRA official 3 months to the end of the year.
Yes.
And you wanted to collect 5 billion every month in order to exceed the 45 billion revenue target set for the year. Did we get that?
We did not achieve that one in October, November.
Okay.
But we made enough because we had actually, now the targets were the target in January was about 46 billion.
Yeah.
But the government changed the benchmark rates at the port. So it was revised to a level over 43 billion. And we have slightly exceeded that.
Slightly exceeded the target of 43 billion when it comes to revenue collection.
Yes.
Okay. Would that be a first for the GRA?
I am not in a position to confirm because I haven't. What I know is for this
what
year.
You have done,
but
now.
I think that it will be one in the recent past. It's one of the good times.
Okay. Prof Stephen Adei. So, finally on the fire, do we know how much it cost the GRA though? The damage done to that building?
No. We don't know the how much. Of course, a lot of physical damage to the first and the second floor. Probably will require just probably knocking it off, but we haven't got the full report. But what we have done is that we have moved totally our operations to the Stanchart headquarters and branch there, which were fortunately empty because they had moved to their big office. And I want to appreciate Stanchart for offering it at a good rate, not free, because
how much?
I think that they gave us to us about $9 equivalent per square meter, which is about half what is prevailing in the high street. So, but it's not going to affect their paying their taxes.
That sounds good. So $9 per square meter. How much does that make in total?
I don't have those figures at my fingertips.
Thank you very much, Prof. Adei.
It's a pleasure.
You know, in your final words, Joy FM is 25 years. Joy FM and the multimedia group. We are as old as the Vision 2020 document. Yes. So
I hope you haven't performed as badly.
well, we used to be one small building. Now we're a few more.
That, I mean, there was a trepidations when the government was opening up to the private media. But I think the Joy FM, along with institutions like the Peace FM, have justified City FM, but you, with all your network, have justified the decision by this country to open the airspace to the private ones. You have done well, and I think that your next 25 years should be better, and I hope this is a kickoff whereby we are going to focus on development issues and not make politics, who is shorter, who is bigger, who has that, going to dominate.
We haven't done badly this morning, have we?
And I think that you must continue and provide leadership in that world. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it, Prof. Stephen Adei.
Amen.